and welcome to the 5th episode of the ADHD and Me podcast. I'm ADHD Girl, and today we're going to be talking about whether medication in terms of focus is a good form of treatment for ADHD. Joining me, I have a parent who's opted not to medicate her daughter for the focus aspect and instead give her sleeping medication, which has had a big impact overall on her ADHD. Let's find out more. Okay, on today's podcast, we're going to be talking about medication versus choosing not to medicate children who have ADHD or anyone who has ADHD. And here to talk about it a little bit further is Becky. Hi, Becky, would you like to introduce yourself and talk about where you come in for the argument for to medicate or not to medicate?
Hi, I'm Becky. My daughter has ADD and I just decided not to put her on any medication, really.
Okay, and can you tell me a little bit about what kind of factors went into that decision? Is it because you didn't think she needed it? Is it because you're a bit worried about her being kind of like stuck on the medication for life? Kind of what things made you choose not to go for medication?
Yeah, there was always a worry that I didn't want her to be on medication for life, but when she was actually diagnosed, it was during COVID, and the doctor that initially had seen her hadn't seen her for a long time, obviously due to COVID. And her first thing was to put her straight on it. And I said to the doctor, can you give me reasons why you're putting her on it? You've not seen her in over a year.
Yeah.
And she just couldn't give me any reason, really.
Wow.
I also know a few other people that have got children with ADHD and they are on the medication.
Yeah.
And they're also on sleeping meds as well.
Right.
And for me, the most important thing was to get April's sleep.
Right. So that was the biggest issue for her.
Yeah, to get her sleep under control, and speaking to other parents who have the children on both of the medication. I don't know if it cancelled it out or if it just did something, but it just didn't seem to work.
So you mentioned that April has ADD. So do you want to talk us through the process? Because I know you mentioned that she got diagnosed in COVID. So I'm guessing that was a bit of a unique and different process than perhaps it might have been if COVID wasn't happening at that time.
Yeah, so initially her tests were before COVID hit, but it did take, I'm sure it was about a year before they actually said to me, yes, this is what April's got. So that was just my initial reaction, really, when the doctor rang me, because she didn't ask me any questions if anything had changed.
So you felt it was a very impersonal approach.
Yeah, very, very impersonal. I felt like it was like now when we're doing e-consults and you don't even get seen, and they just go, yeah, here you go, here's medication. Yeah. And there was no reason from her what was best for her. I did ask initially if the ADHD nurses could come and see her in school once they were back in school. Yeah. Never happened.
Wow. So that wasn't even followed up.
No.
Yeah, COVID's got a lot to answer for, but then we're still facing, from what I've heard from other parents, we're still facing these long processes and these impersonal approaches now, even though COVID has kind of not been and gone, but obviously we're not in lockdown and things aren't affected as much.
Yeah, I'm not even under the ADHD nurses anymore.
Wow. So who monitors the sleeping then? Is that just the regular doctor?
No, yeah, just she's under a doctor, but they've never rang me about it. I just literally put my repeat prescription in. I think once I've asked to up it, because obviously she's growing, and I didn't feel like just the one tablet was working as well anymore. So she is actually on 2 tablets now, but that was my choice and that was me. I asked the doctor on the consult form, or on the, no, not that, on the email, sorry.
Yeah.
And they just said, yeah, there was no phone call, no email. I just got my prescription for a higher dose.
Wow. So let's talk a little bit about, because obviously I think not many people are aware of the difference between ADHD and ADD. And I do know that ADD tends to be more common in girls. That's why a lot of girls sometimes get missed with a diagnosis earlier on. So what kind of behaviours did April present with before she was obviously on the sleep medication and things weren't going very well?
Yeah, her sleep was just terrible.
Yeah, which obviously
It
has a
would,
bit of impact on the whole household.
yeah, it would be 3, 4 o'clock in the morning before she
Wow.
went to sleep. And then obviously I'm waking her up at 7:30 to get ready for school.
Yeah.
Getting ready for school was an absolute
Mm.
nightmare. There would be tears, there'd be screams, tantrums. I don't want to go. I
Mhm.
think I took her into school in her pajamas once
Wow.
because she just wouldn't
Yeah.
get dressed.
Yeah.
Overall behaviour during the day she's very, it's been a long time now. I'm trying to think back.
Well, this is it. When everyone talks about life pre-COVID, I think it's almost like it's affected our memory.
Yeah, it's like another
Like
world.
pre-COVID and after COVID.
She's always been very jumpy. So,
Hmm.
I mean, like when she was playing, so she couldn't
Hmm.
just play with one thing for a long period of time.
Hmm.
So, a room would be an absolute mess. Tidying it, out the question, out the question. It would just be a meltdown. She's very like obsessed. Her
So like
latest thing at the
OCD tendencies.
Yeah, so like
Mm.
her latest thing at the moment is Harry Potter. She's
Yeah.
obsessed.
Me too.
But then 6 months ago,
Yeah.
it was Wednesday.
Hmm.
Six months before that, it was Stitch. But
Right.
once she's in it, she's like in it. She wants
That's her
everything.
escapism.
Yeah, she wants everything to do with it. And
Hmm.
I do worry about when she's older, money wise, because she hasn't got that impulse
Mm.
control.
I always think ADHD is all or nothing, so it's not very great for spending that aspect.
Yeah, it's like it burns a hole in a pocket. She can't have money for a day. It's gone.
Yeah.
Gone. I do have to like control that. I am worried about it.
Yeah, this is it, isn't it? I think because of the lack of information, particularly about adult ADHD, then a lot of parents of children with ADHD, I think this is kind of a big worry because it's the unknown of actually how they cope when they're an adult with some of these things that they're really, really struggling with when they're children. You got given sleeping medication. No one's ever mentioned it since in terms of medication for the focus. Have you seen a change in some of her behaviour since she's getting that more sleep now?
Yeah, definitely. There's no battles in the morning anymore. She just gets up and gets dressed. Obviously, some mornings she's a little bit
Yeah,
tired than others, but
no more than any normal kid though.
yeah.
Yeah.
But we don't have the battles anymore. We don't have the screaming. We don't have the shouting. We don't
Hmm.
have the. The only thing I'd say is her time, watching the time. She's
Management.
and
Yeah.
even though she can see she's got a clock in her room, so even though
Mm.
she knows what time she's got to
Mm.
leave for.
Yeah, warped sense of time is definitely a symptom of ADD and ADHD, and because you always convince yourself you've got more of it than you have. Like for example, if I've got an appointment like 1:30, I'll be like, oh, I can leave at 20 past and get there in 10 minutes and get in and everything, no big deal. And it's only when you're getting out the car at like 22 and you're thinking, oh no, I misjudged this completely.
Yeah, yeah, she's not got any sense of
Yeah.
it. I'll say to her, right, we've got to leave in 5 minutes. I do still need to say,
Mm-hmm.
like, get your shoes on, get your coat on. Because she hasn't got that time factor in her head.
Mm-hmm.
I do have to still prompt her.
So, in terms of you obviously chose not to medicate because it sounds like the doctor couldn't give you any justifiable reason why she did need the medication for focus. Have you ever kind of questioned that decision since? Have you ever kind of thought, you
I
know
am
what,
a
maybe,
little bit
yeah,
now, but only because she's in high school.
ah, right, okay. So, would you say it's the school aspect for her that where the ADHD is kind of the kind of biggest weakness, if you for want of a better word?
Yeah, I think so.
Mm,
Year 7, she was
mm,
fine, but I think she had a lot more help in year 7, and it
yeah.
seems to be. And I know why they do it because they need to be more independent and
Mm. There's got to be a
uh,
balance, hasn't it? It's trying to get that balance right because you don't want to see your kid failed or not getting the support they definitely need, but also it's got to be balanced with them being able to do stuff for themselves. I think that's one of the hardest parts,
yeah.
isn't it?
I mean, I'm talking to the teacher at the moment. She's in year 8 now,
Hmm.
and she's noticeably seeing that it's a lot harder. She's
Yeah.
getting a lot more stressed. I'm having like a few
Mm.
tears every now and then,
Mm.
especially since Christmas. So I am speaking to a teacher on how to,
Navigate that.
yeah, and put things in place in school. So that's only just started to happen. So I think I'll see how she gets on, if she settles,
I
if
think
she,
it's quite sad though, isn't it? That the only thing that's kind of made you consider whether she may need the medication is not any particular behaviour that she's presenting. It's just to be able to cope in a mainstream kind of school environment, which is quite sad when you think about it, really, isn't it? Because it makes you think how well our mainstream schools are built to cope with children who do have additional needs.
yeah, she does say a lot to me, that the teachers, because she's in a few groups separately,
Right.
but then the rest she's in mainstream, and she always says to me, the teachers don't understand me.
So she struggles to articulate herself in terms of what she needs.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
I suppose as well we've had obviously a medication shortage. I mean, has that made you think? I mean, I'm sure you must have heard about it, but has that at any point made you think, oh goodness me, I'm so glad I didn't go down the medication route?
Yeah, a little bit, because I think, it would be a stressful thing if
I
I
know.
couldn't get the medication that she needed.
Yeah, well, this is it. And I know a lot of parents who are having to fight tooth and nail every month just to get a new box of the medication. I think it's getting a little bit better, but it's not what it should be. I think it's quite interesting because I've got a lot of parents of children who are boys who have ADHD. And I do feel like ADHD is more of the boys kind of side because obviously boys are boisterous. And I know obviously it's a stereotype, but I do think it does work for the ADHD in that boys tend to be very boisterous, very loud, whereas girls tend to not get on with it. But I think that because sometimes they're not as boisterous and not as loud and not as disruptive, then they can get missed. Can I ask you, what was the reason for April being diagnosed? Was it because you kept pushing for it, or were a school very aware there was issues, or was it a bit of a mixture of both? Or
April was actually in a different school, and it was the attitude of that school towards her that made me move. They
wow.
knew she was behind, they knew she was struggling, and I had a parents' evening with her. I think she was in year 3 at the time. I can't remember when I can't remember if it was year 3 or year 4 that she moved. And I had a meeting with the teacher. She said, well, yeah, she's behind. And that was it.
Wow.
And
And
I
there was
was
no
like,
kind of strategy for moving
no.
forward, or no?
And it was me asking the question, so what are you going to do about it? How is she going to improve? And then as soon as I went to this new school, I said to them, I want you to look into what's going on. Why is she behind? And they did it straight away. Now, I don't know if they would have done it straight away if it wasn't for me saying, this is how the other school has treated her. I want this doing. I don't know, but it did start to get pushed through when she went to the new
This is the
school.
problem, isn't it? There are some good schools out there who are very well equipped for dealing with children with ADHD. So I don't want to tarnish every school with the same brush and say they're all bad, because they're not. But I do think that the lack of information surrounding ADHD and ADD, particularly for girls, really affect the amount of support that schools give. Because I think one of the, not misconceptions, but I think one of the things that's pushed is medication being the be all and end all treatment for ADHD. And then you get put in a position where a child's in a mainstream school who's not medicated per se, and the school don't particularly know what to do, because for them, even the school are relying on medication to a certain extent so that the child can focus like any other child. Do you know what I mean? It seems to me that even schools are reliant upon medication as a form of treatment for ADHD. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, definitely. I think there's a lot of teachers that don't understand how to deal with a child with ADHD, ADD.
Yeah.
I even went on like parenting courses and stuff to help her, but it's still I'm still learning things about her.
Yeah.
But there's not even just for teachers either. I think there's nothing for the kids. It's like they get told they're ADD or the ADHD, and there's been like a few times where she's gone, oh, it's my ADD, I can't help it, and it's kind of like she'll use it as an excuse, but
Mm.
but she does know she's different. But at
Yeah.
first, she
Yeah.
did get upset about it, but
Mm.
there's no, I don't know,
No,
there's no
yeah.
like focus groups where these children
Mm.
go who have just been diagnosed to say
Yeah.
like, yes, like you might know
Mm.
that you're a little bit different, but
Well, yeah, this is one of the problems that I'm trying to fix with the ADHD and Me Community Interest Company, because you're quite right. There's not a lot geared towards people who have ADHD. A lot of it's geared towards the parents. A lot of it's kind of like, geared towards medication as the ultimate form of support. But there's nothing actually to help with lifelong strategies that actually knowing that you're not alone. When I was in reception class, and that's age 4, for anybody who's listening from America, this is what my mum's told me, that apparently I came out of school, got in the car and was getting a bit upset to my mum, and my mum was like, what's wrong? And apparently I turned around and said to her at the age of 4, Mum, I'm not like other children, am I? So I knew at the age of 4 that I was very, very different. And even when you get that label of ADHD, other people know why you are different, but you don't necessarily know why you are different, because when you're that age, when you're the age of anything under 13, I would say, to you, ADHD is just a word. It's not, you don't understand what it is. You just know that it's the thing that makes you different. So having things like these focus groups would actually be a very beneficial thing.
yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
I don't think she still fully understands what it is, even though I've said to her, like, follow people because that I've got ADHD, so you can kind of relate to them, because even I follow people now who've got ADHD just so I can understand it, and a lot of it is, I'm like, that's just April, that's her.
Yeah.
So
this is what I mean, and it starts to make a bit more sense. And I always say that the diagnosis of ADD or ADHD is just the beginning of a journey of discovery, really. And I remember when I'm not medicated anymore. I was medicated at the age of 10 and took off medication at the age of 17 because it wasn't working for me very well anymore. But I actually didn't like the feeling of being on medication. I even now can still remember at the age of 10, I can remember exactly what it felt like to be on Ritalin, and I hated it. And I'm not saying I'm not anti-medication, I'm not pro-medication. I think it's a very individual decision. I think it's a decision that parents should make for their children. I think it's a decision that should be made in collaboration with the children if they're old enough. But for me, because I am quite a bubbly person, I'm quite, that's part of my personality. I'm quite crazy, I'm quite bubbly, I'm quite friendly. On that medication, I was just numb. It was almost like, I think it's probably a bit similar to being on antidepressants, where you kind of aren't really in connection with your feelings. And I've never, I mean, there are times, obviously, when I can't concentrate or I don't get as much done, I think, gosh, maybe I should see about going back on Ritalin, but I've never gone beyond the thought of, oh, maybe I should see, because then I remember that feeling. I think, no, I'd rather not.
yeah.
So it's really interesting to hear all these stories. Having said that, I did do a dissertation at university on a child with ADHD. I actually observed him in a classroom environment. And there were times when, and he was on medication for his ADHD, and there were times when he had forgot to take his medication at lunchtime, because he was on the every 4-hour one. And he'd come back in, and you could tell the difference when he wasn't on his medication. Without being on that medication, he had no choice of whether to learn or not. So that's why I take a very cautious approach around medication, because I know it definitely works for some. And I do think there is an argument for, particularly in the mainstream system as it is today, that without medication, some children aren't able to access mainstream education at all. But also, I can really understand why parents would choose not to medicate their children. Thank you very much, Becky, for joining me today. I really appreciate it, and I hope April gets on a little bit better in school and gets the support that she needs for her ADD.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you.
Well, that's all we've got time for today. Thanks for listening, ADHDers and allies. Join me next time, where I'll be talking to a parent all about masking. what it is, and why it's meant she's had to fight even harder for her children with ADHD. Take care, everybody.